Hola, hello. I feel like I'm wiggling. Hello, welcome to the 20-minute cooking school. I am Claire Tansey. This is Claire Tansey's kitchen. This is actually the real Claire Tansey's kitchen. And today, by popular request, we are making bread. I think I'm gonna take my glasses off. No, that's no good. That's no good. Don't take your glasses off. We're making bread. Bread is like the world's most perfect food, maybe next to an egg. Bread is the most perfect food. It is, I love the history of it. I love that it was like, the big debate, did bread give us beer or did beer give us bread? Who can say? Hey, Lori, how are you? So I am going to make today the easiest bread that it's possible to make. I don't know how much easier it could get than this. This is the no-knead bread. So now, you need it, like you must have it, but you don't need it. Now, I grew up, making bread the old-fashioned way. Knead. You really had to knead it for like 10 minutes. You get carpal tunnel syndrome. Then, I switched to the mixer and you go the dough hook and that does the kneading. It has to be as smooth as a baby's bottom. Remember all that? And then you have to let it rest and then it could rise for like an hour. Then you have to punch it. Then you have to rise for another hour. Then you have to bake it. So quite great results, but kind of fussy. And if you're like me and you're really lazy / disorganized / things come up out of the blue and you're like, oh crap, I can't bake this now, or I can't punch this down now. That kind of bread ends up being a little bit too much work. So when I discovered the Leahy method, which of course is the famous no-knead method, it was revelatory. So I'm going to show you how to do it. And I think I've even made the easiest bread ever even easier because there's a step in the Leahy method that I skip now. So take that, Jim Leahy, and all your millions of dollars. So I will post a recipe for this that has the cups in it, but I always use my scale because it's literally one bowl, one scale, 4 ingredients, and it's done. So the scale here is the little digital scale that I talk about all the time. It's one of my favorite kitchen tools. And I'm going to just tip this down so you can see a little bit better. So here we are. And this bread, I have experimented with this bread. I've experimented with doing it. Oh, you're probably wondering what that ginormous box is back there. That is Thomas's tank. We had a large piece of furniture, bought a new large piece of furniture. This is the tank, which he has built. It's got a, it's quite adorable actually. We've been painting it. It's got a hatch. There's a door on this side here. Anyway, my son's tank. I've experimented with this bread with like quantity of whole wheat because I really love whole wheat flour in my bread. And so what I'm going to show you today is the ratio that I have found works the best. Any more whole wheat than I'm about to put in, and it just never really quite rises properly. 100% white all-purpose flour, bing, glorious. But when this is an everyday bread, you probably want to have a little bit of whole wheat in there. So I am going to do it all by weight. But when I post the recipe, I will put the cups in there. So this is, as I said, one bowl. And I am going to do, this is my whole wheat flour. So I'm going to do about 1/3 of the quantity of the recipe whole wheat. So that's going to be 175 grams, which is just a little over a cup. Again, we'll wait for the exact measurements if you don't have a scale. But go out and get a scale because grapes, it's so much easier and so much cleaner. 162, 177-ish, 175-ish, and then I will go to my unbleached all-purpose, and I'll top it up so that it gets all the way to 400. So it's 400 grams of flour in this loaf of bread, and this is one beautiful loaf. I have done doubles, it's too big. I've done a 1.5 in a bigger dish. Oven's ready. But this is good for one round loaf of bread. So again, roughly, okay, we went up to 409. No big deal. No big deal. Alrighty. So ingredient number 2 is salt. You can use kosher salt. You can use table salt. I happen to have the table salt right here in my hand, and it's about a teaspoon. It's about 8 grams or a teaspoon here. Remember, bread needs salt. Well, as we know from past episodes, such as every episode, everything needs salt. So you need to have salt in your bread. ingredient number 3 is yeast, which I forgot to take out of the frig. So I buy my yeast, because I use so little of it, I buy it in these little in these little jars. When you buy it in the packet, it comes pre-measured in, I think, 8 grams or so. It's 2 1/4 teaspoons. That's way too much. I want like a heaping 1/4 teaspoon here. 1/4 teaspoon. I say a heaping 1/4 teaspoon because I find just an even 1/4 teaspoon is not quite enough, and a half a teaspoon is way too much. So, you know, I hate the measurement of a heaping 1/4 teaspoon, but that's it there. See this guy, heaping 1/4 teaspoon. And this is active dry yeast. Active dry yeast. The original Leahy bread calls for, I think it's instant rise yeast or some kind of special yeast. This is the type I have, so that is that. Okay, we got 3 ingredients in there: flour, salt, and yeast. Then I'm gonna, I don't want, no, not the wood. Oh yeah, we can do the wooden spoon. We're gonna use the wooden spoon. So this just gets stirred around. Now, P.S. I have done a little bit of the magic of television today because I wanted to show you a couple of the different stages of the bread. If you're just joining us, hello! It is Claire Tansey's Kitchen. We are making easy, no-knead bread, and I'm making an easy bread even easier today. Okay, so that is the flour. Then you need your water. So usually when you're making any yeasted product, you have to get the water temperature just right. It's got to be sort of between 105 degrees and 115 degrees. Any hotter and it'll kill the yeast. Any colder and it won't allow the yeast to activate. Well, that's just a lot of hogwash. It's not really hogwash. That's about proofing the yeast. I trust that my yeast works. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to tare my bowl here, T-A-R-E, not tear. And I'm going to add about 350 grams of water. So that translates to 350 mils of water. And let me just tell you this right off the bat. If you're watching this in the Southern Hemisphere or anywhere that it's summer, or if you're watching this in 6 months and it's summertime for you, you're going to use less, only 300 grams. Did you know that in the wintertime, flour will absorb more water? It's a humidity thing. So in the wintertime, you want to do about 350 grams of water. In the summertime, about 300 grams of water. Gang, trust me, I've been making this bread for years, and it's just a matter of experience. So 350, this is just regular cold water. Tap water. It doesn't have to be hot, doesn't have to be cold. It honestly does not matter. I told you this was like the lowest maintenance bread in the entire world. 191, 254, 332, 345. We're going to call that even. Now, this is the fun part. I'm going to just stir. So usually when you're making bread, you know, you proof the yeast, then you add a little bit of flour, then you add a little bit more flour, then you add some more water, then you add some more flour. And you gotta be kind of like, oh, you have to know what it's supposed to look like, what it's supposed to feel like. Hey, Ellen, how are ya? We missed having you there last night at our big event. But we had fun regardless, sorry. Anyway, so here is like, this is the maximum amount of kneading that I'm doing. I'm just stirring this together. Look at that, it looks terrible. If you are a normal, ordinary bread maker, you'd be like, oh, disaster, no good. See how sticky it is? Yeah. In bread parlance, this is called the shaggy mass. I have things to say about the shaggy mass, but I won't say them right now. Okay, so all that's going to happen now is this shaggy mass is going to stay in this bowl. And what I normally do is I'll show you what I normally do because I have one by the magic of TV. I have one over here. I take this, I put a plate on it, and I shove it over there on the counter for as little as 12 hours, as much as I've gone 48 hours before. One time I started a bread and then we had an emergency and it was all fine in the end, but we had to go to the hospital with Thomas. And I remember I came back, it had been like a weekend, came back, I'm like, oh crumbs, the bread. Then I thought, well, either I can just throw out the batter or I can just bake it and then throw it out if it's garbage. And you know what? It was delicious, super flavorful. And there's lots you can read about why no-knead bread is so flavorful, but it's basically that you're giving the yeast time to do its thing very, very slowly. And the gluten in the bread to do its thing very, very slowly, and it just develops a kind of a more rich, a more intense, a more sophisticated, layered, flavory sort of a thing. All I can tell you is that it's a lot less work, and it's a lot less like intense. Like, you don't have to pay any attention to it at all. I have done, I've whipped this up like one night after I'm like, oh, you know what, I'm going to bed. I've had half a bottle of wine. I'll just quickly whip up a bread. I know the recipe by heart. You don't have to do any work, and then you just let it sit. Now, I'm going to show you one that I made yesterday morning-ish, sort of 11 o'clock, and I just took the plate off the top of it. I'm going to try not to move it too much so you can see how funky it is. So it rises really slowly. You see how wet it is as well? That's almost as wet as like a pancake batter or a waffle batter. It is 4:11. I've already made bread here in the 20-minute cooking school. So this also has quite a rich smell. It's quite, it has a sort of a funkiness in the best way possible. Okay, so this is what happens after your 12 hours or so. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bake it. And this is the stage that I have eliminated a step. So this is for you, Erin McGregor, if you're there. Normally with the Leahy method, at this point, you get yourself a nice tea towel, you lay it out on the counter, you sprinkle it with a ton of flour, and then you dump this whole gooey mass of batter into your tea towel and fold it a couple of times. Who is ringing the doorbell? Okay, I'm not answering that. If you're watching right now, I'm not answering the doorbell. But what am I saying? Oh yeah, you put it in the tea towel, and then you cover it, and then you sort of wrap the tea towel over it, and you let it rest for an hour while the oven is preheating. The batter, because it's so wet, I always find gets stuck to the tea towel, and I end up ruining the tea towel and throwing the tea towel out. So one day I was like, screw it, I'm gonna try it without the tea towel. And it worked. So that's the trick. The tea towel trick is eliminate the tea towel. So at this point, I've got this lovely shaggy mass. Let's move some things so you can see this. Don't need you anymore. Very thirsty today. No, I am not home. Oh, I don't care who it is. I'm not answering the door. Shaggy mass. And then I'm going to take a couple tablespoons of flour. And this is really loose. All I'm going to do is get the top of the batter here nicely coated with flour. And I'm using the all-purpose. You can't use whole wheat here because it doesn't work the right way. And I especially want to pay attention to the edges. I'll show you this more closely in a secchi. A couple tablespoons of flour. And kind of forget what you know about working with bread dough. So you don't have to worry that you're adding too much flour. It's not like pastry where you want to be really, really stingy with the flour. What's happening here is you've got a really, really wet dough, and I'm going to try to get it out of this bowl and into the pot that I'm going to bake it in. More on that in a second. So you can see how much flour I've got in there. Quite a bit. And then I just take my little, dip that in that flour. Take a little spatula or whatever, and then kind of loosen the sides. You see what I'm doing there? I'm just running the spatula down the side to try to get the flour down the side of the bowl. And all I'm doing that for is to make sure that the batter doesn't stick when I transfer this to the pan. Yeah. Okay, for the love of peanut butter, let's go answer the door, shall we? Hang on a second. Okay, guys, we're going to answer the door. Who is it? Who could it possibly be? Hold on. Oh, hi there.
Hi.
Thanks very much.
Yep.
Thanks for putting up with that, guys. It was the postman. And my postman doesn't always ring twice. He rings 3 times. And he's very insistent. Okay, we are back. We are making... are we good? We're good. Okay, guys, with apologies. Now, let's talk about the pot. Yes, you bake this in a pot. And you want about a 9-inch across, 9-inch across-ish, 22 centimeters, pot that can go in the oven. The oven is at 450 degrees and you preheat the oven with the pot in it, because this is the genius of it. You're going to like create a mini oven inside the big oven. So, put this aside. I use my Le Creuset, like a Dutch oven that has a lid, but you can use a stainless steel pot. It's more about the size and it needs to be able to be in the oven at 450 degrees. So there are some ceramic dishes, like I have an Emile Henry ceramic pot that has a lid, but it only goes up to 350, so that's no good. Mismatched oven mitts. Let me show you what I am talking about. Oh, boom. Okay. Okie dokie. So 450 degrees is quite hot. And in fact, it's actually even discolored. There we go. You can see that, eh? Let me tilt this down a bit. There we go. Now, so oven mitts, very important. Lid off. And then with one swift move, I'm going to dump this whole thing right in there. And just using the spatula. Yes, there's lots of flour, not to worry. The flour is going to singe a little bit, but that comes out just like that. Replace the oven mitts. Do not replace the mitt. You see that? This is just like a blob in there. Okay, now we're going into the oven. All right. That goes in the oven with the lid on for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, you take the lid off, give it another 15 minutes, and then, where's the one I made earlier? This is what it looks like. Yeah, it's a Le Creuset. It's a Le Creuset Anuja, but you can use any sort of 9-inch, 8.5 to 9-inch pot with a lid that can go in at 450 degrees. So yeah, you know, no big deal, just the most beautiful loaf of bread you ever did see, and it took like no effort. 400 grams of flour, of which I use 175 grams of whole wheat, a teaspoon of table salt, which works out to be about a tablespoon of kosher salt, a heaping teaspoon of yeast, active dry yeast, and 350 grams of water in the winter. You want me to cut it? Oh yes, you want me to cut it. Okay, let me move you over here. This is, and it turns out like this every time, every single time. It's foolproof. And trust me, because I am a lazy, distracted cook, and I have forgotten about this bread. I have, you know, left it for a couple days. I've gotten it all over my shirt. Now, this is when you definitely need the old Forstner. So let's cut it this way, shall we? Nice and, can you hear that? There we are. I'm telling you, when you serve this to people, they will fall over. It is so good. Now, I usually do this because this is too large of a slice for me. And I always save the bum for Thomas because he loves it. But seriously, people, this is reason to keep room temperature salted butter on hand. It is so, okay, I love butter, but that was too much butter. Looky, look. If there is anything better in the world than this, I haven't met it. So good. We have 1 minute left. We have 1 minute left. Ask me your questions or send them to me by email. First question, is there any wiggle room with the 12 hours? Yeah, 12 to 36. Anywhere between 12 hours and 36 hours. 13 hours, 32 hours, all good. Does not matter. All that will happen is that you will have different flavors. So the longer it goes, the kind of funkier it gets, all in a good way. But after 12 hours, it is ready to bake if you want. In the wintertime, also, if it's really cold in your house, like if you're one of those people who keeps your house at 16 degrees, it will take fully 24 hours just because it needs a little bit of warmth. You don't have to put it in a warm place, but it will take a little bit of warmth to get the yeast actually going. How long will it last since there are no preservatives? Well, Mike, let me show you that here is a loaf. Here's the loaf that I baked. What day is it today? Thursday. I think I baked this on Tuesday. Still good, very good toasted. I keep it at room temperature in a plastic bag. And then this loaf I baked actually on Saturday. Still no signs. What will happen is it will just start to develop little spots of mold on it just because it sits out. This is so good for panzanella, for breadcrumbs, you know, all that good stuff. When will I post the recipe? It'll probably be in the next couple of hours. I think we're going to try and go get Thomas's flu shot. Don't tell him. So we're going to go and just do that in a minute, but it'll probably be sometime before midnight tonight, but I'll put it up as soon as I can. Any other questions? It is now 4:21, and that is the end of the 20-minute cooking school. Thank you for being here and baking bread with me. And I wish you could all be here to taste. Actually, her. Bread. So. Thank you for joining me in Claire Tansy's kitchen. We'll see you next week. Bye.